So yeah, 10 minutes late, of course. That's the way things go these days. But here we are. Thank you for joining us. We're going to wait a little longer. I do not have access to Facebook while I have this on the screen. So I'm going to wait a couple of minutes for some folks to show up and see if we can get things going. And of course, things are going to be. All right, let's see if we're live. Technology. Yeah, it says I'm live. I don't know why there's no picture. Oh, there we go. Okay, so ladies, if you're out there, see if we can get things going. Hey, Ricardo, how you doing? Hi, Pete. I'm waiting for a couple of folks to join us. Hi, Carol. Thanks. I would be inclined to disagree. I lost a ton of weight, and I've already gained like 20 pounds back because I went on a hiatus and just started eating to the bottom of every bowl I could find. Come on, man. Where are you ladies at? I'm not. Oh, Jill's here. Hi, Jill.
Hey.
And waiting for one more. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited.
I know, look
this
at you.
This is, for everybody who doesn't know, this is my friend Jill Morstad. She is in Lincoln, Nebraska. She operates Prairie Skies Canine, and she's been a trainer for 10,000 years, much like myself. We're waiting for one more attendee. I'm hopefully she will come here shortly. Come on, Julia. I love you, baby.
Come on, Julia.
I
was on the Facebook message, so I think.
Yeah, I saw that. That. So yeah, this isn't necessarily impromptu, folks. I've been planning this for a while, but some things have happened. Some interesting changes, and Jill and Julia and I have talked about doing something like this forever. So
Yes.
we just decided to figure it's going to happen one way or another. So we're doing it now. Hi, Kelly. Hi, Robin. Hi, Joe. How you doing? Yeah, you and me both, Carol. Pete, and greetings from StreamYard, who is bringing us here this evening. Still waiting for Julia. But anyway, so we're going to try and get some introductions out of the way. All y'all know who I am. I am the original Angry Old Fat Broad. This is the BattleAxe Broadcast Network, and this is where we are. So,
Julia just messaged on Facebook, but I can't get to it.
Hold on a sec. I'll check.
Okay.
Because that's what I do. It's easy. It says it can't find your camera. No, that's you. I
had to turn mine back on, which was the problem.
Okay. I just took the piece of tape off of the one here. Rick will probably be pissed off if I allow camera access on the office laptop. That's okay. He can blame me. He can blame me. Hurry up, girl.
Julia.
Come on. Hi, Josh. How you doing, Mr. Wiggins? Good to see you. This is going to be good. It is going to be good shit. We got a lot of stuff to cover. I want to try and limit this to about an hour, just because we all have lives, and I know that there are some podcasters out there that go on ad nauseum, and it's like kicking a dead horse, and I'm just not. I'm not going to do that. If there is something that's
school night.
I'm sorry, Jill.
It's a school night.
It is a school night. That's right. There's people who have school tomorrow. I got to see my son today. He actually starts school tomorrow.
Hey.
He's going to the community college here to finish all of his undergrad stuff before he transfers to UMBC.
That's great.
He's so thin. A mother worries. But yeah, he looked great. He looked happy. He looked content. Being out of the military has been good for him. So, anyways, all right, Julia, you're killing me, woman. Looking down at my phone. She's typing. I am live on YouTube. Of course, my two dogs just started lighting up for no discernible reason. They may need to get banished to van jail. That's okay. And tell the dorkopotamus I said, hey. Her female red dog Candy is she's the Doberman equivalent of Spider, who is still in New England learning how to be a proper bird dog. Apparently, he's doing quite well. Thank God. I had my reservations. But he's with great handling. So he should do well. But anyway, so we have a bit of an agenda this evening, and lots of stuff going on. I had written a couple of notes, but there is a couple of things. I've been teaching myself German the hard way through Google Translate. There is a individual that I follow on Facebook. His name is Yue Hybe Hund.
Oh, Eva. Uh-oh, frozen. There we
I'm
go.
going to put it in. And I love this guy because he is actually, why am I not? Oh, there we go. It's posted above. He has there in Europe is undergoing a huge change in the dog training landscape. Owning landscape is on a more concentrated scale because it's a much smaller country. Europe as a whole is undergoing a huge, I wouldn't want to say renaissance because that's moving forward. What they're doing is a retreat back to the primordial ooze days as far as their to manage populations of dogs in a reasonable way. I mean, this is the culture from which all of our working dogs have come from. This is the society maintained a very prominent role in living with human beings for millennia. I mean, centuries. I mean, dogs for the most part are still primarily welcome any place you go. And this individual has some great content, but he writes in German. So I have to go to Google Translate. Now, of course, the comments, the cool thing about Facebook is they have a translator. You can click on see translation and stuff, but the stuff that he posts, he'll create an image like I did to post this, where it's just an image with words on it. And he'll have an image and it'll have words on it. So I sit there and type furiously into Google Translate so that I come up with some of the stuff that he writes. And it's just like, it came right out of my mouth, or it came out of the mouth of any one of my contemporaries who's been doing. And one of the things that he said, which every single person that knows me has heard me say, dog training is a trade. No one who doesn't master this craft can teach this craft. And I thought that was really, really profound. And the interesting thing about that is basically it's like he has the same problems overseas that we have here, especially when it comes to working dog environments. Josh Wiggins, he trains hunting dogs. My friend Nate Zarnata and Gretchen Verline also train hunting dogs. They're part of a German system of testing, which for whatever reason, my image has frozen solid. Hopefully you guys can still hear me.
Uh-oh. Linda, don't abandon me. Sorry, you guys. Hopefully Linda will be back. Oh, all right. Now I'll look at the phone and see what's going on if I can. Linda, what's happening? Sorry, you guys. This is the technology that makes our lives easier, right? Oh my goodness. Okay, not sure what's going on back there. This is an unfamiliar platform to me, so I'm trying to keep my hands off of everything in the hopes that if you don't touch it, you can't break it. I don't know if that's true. There's Linda.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Don't abandon me.
Yeah, I was been jabbering like a magpie, and then all of a sudden I realized that nothing was happening. Yeah, is Zuckerberg a cat person? I hope not. Hi, Cynthia. Yeah, Josh, don't dance for free, Jill. Charge for that shit.
I know, right? Exactly.
Right. Hey guys, you can actually share this if you would like. Please share it far and wide. I'd like to get more of an audience. If not, that's fine too. But yeah, I think it'll be cool. I think that Julia is still having trouble getting in. I don't quite understand. Connectivity should be fairly good. All right, she should be coming on shortly. But anyways, still waiting.
That Linda, that German trainer you mentioned, I've been following him for quite some time. And yeah, it's pretty spot on, the stuff that
There she is.
It's been a while since I studied the German, but Uwe, I think is how you pronounce the first name.
Quiet.
Julia.
Hi. I was like, there they are. Let me shut these assholes up. Hey. Wow. Wow, you guys. Really? Now you do this? That's a bunch of bullshit. Some people might need to go to van jail in a minute. Quiet.
Van jail.
There's a trainer you could hire.
Right.
Yeah. I don't believe in that dog training shit. I've had dogs my whole life.
Julia McDonough, everybody.
I know. Your whole life. Yeah.
So basically, before you got on, Julia, we were talking about a guy. He's based overseas in Germany, and I shared his Facebook profile, or actually just his name. I didn't share his profile because he has a lot in common with us. And I have been teaching myself German because he'll post something and I'll take it to Google Translate and I'll type it in so I can see exactly what he's saying. And a lot of times he'll post stuff in English because I know he has a larger audience than just Europe. But a lot of the stuff that he talks about is very similar to what we talk about here. And one of the things that I wanted to bring up was the state of dog training. So there you are. Here we are. Let's have a check, shall we?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Oh, here we go. I don't know about you all. Yes, that's it. And Rocco. I don't know if you guys have noticed, there's been an absolute proliferation of people getting charged with abuse and cruelty, and they're couching themselves as dog trainers, yet they have no affiliations, which it doesn't surprise me because the more attention you draw to yourself, the less scrutiny you're able to bear. They have, they're operating out of the backyard or they're operating out of the basement or whatever. Excuse me. So there's not a lot of continuity as far as, what makes them qualified as a dog trainer. No insurance, no licensing, no zoning, none of these things. It's the same conversation that we have all the time and we've been having for more than 2 decades now. And part of the problem, I think personally, is because, and you guys know that both of you know that I'm kind of a hawk as far as some form of licensing for dog training, not necessarily certifying, because I don't think that's something that you can quantify through a certification, but I do believe you can license it. So you have this one faction over here, my disembodied hand, basically saying you can't license dog trainer, you can't certify dog training because that's for whatever their reasons are. And I think that primarily they're afraid of that kind of thing. The thing is we're not asking for people, hey, my brother from another mother, George, we're not asking for people to pass through like what the CCPDT is trying to do, where you have to train a certain way. What we're asking for is the basic tenets of professional conduct. And these are already codified. All we want is for people to be able to prove they have them. That's it. How you train, as long as you're not doing anything harmful, I could care less about. So that's kind of going to be the first bullet point we talk about this afternoon or this evening. So who wants to be first? You all know where I stand on this. Who's next?
Well, I mean, I get it. There was just recently, actually, there was something going on with a trainer who had been exposed for some type of just horrific, multiple counts of different abuse, and it was in the southern part of the country. And
oh yeah, he's a retrainer.
No, this was another one. This was recently, yeah. And the company that guy had is the same name as a training company up here that has nothing to do with him. And so we watched the name of this dog training company getting rightfully, trashed because they were doing some pretty horrific stuff. But it's also the name of a company up here. So just seeing that, just like the fact that that's going on, the fact that it's so rife that this stuff is happening so frequently, and it's like splashing on people who have nothing to do with it. So yeah, obviously, I think there is room, as you said, not for certification, but yeah, there has to be. There is a code of ethics, isn't there? But what is the thing that's preventing people from adhering to it?
Fear.
Yeah. And my concern is that I think they just keep moving goalposts too, because it used to be the proof of your competency was that you had a dog that was trained. You could show somebody how to train a dog, and you could show that person and their dog as proof of your work. But now it's kind of like, if you show a trained dog, now there's accusations of abuse, or that dog is flat, or you shut that dog down, or that dog has no choice, or whatever. So it comes down to who's going to who is going to be this body that makes these decisions. Because like you said, the current, for lack of a better word, like the current authority on all of this, the people who are doing most of the certifications that get recognized, they definitely adhere to a certain methodology that I think we all realize has its limits.
You're correct, George. It does. It splashes on all of us.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
I think George's point is exactly to the heart of it. Licensure is a way of protecting the consumer. It's really hard, I think, for people. It is here. Folks get on the internet, do their Google search. How do you know the good guys from the bad guys? If you're new to this, if you're a new pet owner and somebody's got a flashy website that lists out all the CCPD, whatever, and emphasizes all of that over whatever else could be emphasized, it's pretty hard to tell.
Yeah.
It is. And that's another point that we're going to talk about too is, and again, and George will remember this, like there's so few of us here that actually remember the old BT list, Margot Woods' list, and the old Pro Dog list that occurred before that, and the old IACP list, where there was actually really constructive conversations about dog training. And it's really a shame that they took that down when Facebook started becoming more popular. But be that as it may, there's one thing that no one is willing to address, and that includes these people that are, the CCPDT and what's the other one? The behavior people, the
ABC, I think.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever, right?
Right.
What constitutes a trained dog? And we had this conversation. We've had this conversation. We three have had this conversation on multiple occasions. And as far back as 20 years ago, when we were still writing to all these other dog training boards about what constitutes a trained dog. And no one's willing to qualify that because it directly addresses their fears about their inability to meet that standard, as low as that standard is, right? And what are we talking about? Off-leash reliability.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Yep.
Right.
And the thing is it's like, you know, you have the e-collar people, and I use e-collars every day, right? I use prong collars, I use chain training collars, I've used everything that's out there. All of us have. But the thing is, though, is a trained dog is not reliant on equipment, period. And, you know, Margot and several other people had come up with ways with which to be able to measure that. Rockville in Maryland still has one of the country's only off-leash dog licenses. Well, they will give you a license if you have a novice or an open title on your dog. Or you can go down there and demonstrate essentially what boils down to canine good citizenship skills in a park and be determined whether or not you can have an off-leash dog.
Right.
I think about that all the time. I've explained that people think I'm making that up when I tell them about Rockville. People think I'm making it up. And it's crazy.
Yeah.
Because like that shouldn't be crazy. That should be the norm. That you want off-leash access or you want any access, show some kind of reliability, show some kind of trustworthiness with you and the dog. But like you even bring that up and it just sounds like a fantasy.
Well, it really go ahead.
Sorry, Julie.
Go ahead.
Well, setting a standard, dare I say, measurable standard, is not dissimilar from our own educational process, right? Back when, if we can remember, learning math facts, multiplication tables, once you learn that 4 times 4 is 16, it is 16 in every circumstance for the rest of your miserable life.
Yep.
And that's part of what is sort of baked into how we learn those things. Because if we don't learn those fundamental things, there's a whole lot of other things we can't learn. If you don't know basic math facts, you can't, I don't know, take a chemistry class and become a pharmacist. You can't work in finance. You can't work in real estate because you have to be able to do the math. You can't do things around the house like lay carpet. And what we want owners to understand is that the presence of an environmental distraction in some form is not an excuse that should take the dog off the rails. I mean, to put it in a human analog, imagine you're building a house and the site supervisor calls up and says, Julia, the house is ready. It's all framed up. You should come out and walk through. And you go out and walk through to see, oh, there's the kitchen, there's the bathroom, there's the bedroom. And the site supervisor leans in and says, oh, but by the way, when the guys were measuring and cutting and hanging and hammering, 4 times 4 was only 7 today because they got distracted by a pretty girl. Well, I don't think you want to buy that house then, right? It's going to fall in.
Right.
And it's the same with training. If you leave holes in the training, that's where, who used to say it? Margot, maybe. The dog sticks his head through and bites you in the ass. But the idea, it surprises me sometimes, the resistance to that notion of transparent standards, because it's exactly the same way that we were taught. And I don't think dogs are children, but for the people who do, explain to me that double standard.
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
The anthropomorphizing stuff where, we think that they're kids, except we'd never accept those, like you just said, like just that alone
Never
would stand up. Right. But it's true. If you listen to or read, I try not, like, I have gotten to the point where I avoid reading some of the comment threads on some of the crazy stuff where people will just tie themselves into knots to avoid holding themselves up to a standard. And I mean, that's really what it comes down to, is if the people who are out there, hammering checks as dog trainers can't agree if a dog needs to know how to walk on a loose leash. Like, just start there. Don't even get into anything more complicated than that.
Right.
You have people literally just twisting themselves into pretzels about why a dog shouldn't have to walk on a leash next to you, and how it's abusive to not let your dog, like, basically drag you down the street with its nose on the ground. So if the people who are, and these are people giving seminars, these are people out there doing clinics.
Oh man, don't get me started.
Well, uh-oh. But I mean, that's what we're looking at. So, the whole Rockville thing, like, I love that. I love that idea. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they still have it in this climate. I'd love to know more. I'd love to see something like that happen around here where, if I walk up the street from my shop, there's a couple of, like, dog friendly pubs where they're like moray eels underneath the tables when you walk by the outside seating. And these people think they have friendly dogs that they can bring to dog friendly places because somewhere along the line, someone told them that's acceptable. So, yeah.
And and that, on that point, one of the things that actually, one of the topics of conversation that we were going to have tonight was, don't worry, he's friendly. Right? Because I had, today is Labor Day. So of course I labored laboriously on not necessarily finding content, because we had already predetermined what we were going to talk about for our inaugural podcast. But one of the things that I'm seeing a lot of on Instagram, and for whatever reason, I can't sign into Insta because I wanted to share something on the screen here. 2 videos, as a matter of fact. So I'm going to load them into the comments, and I want the people that are in the audience to go and see these, because they're just 100% of the reason that shit is going so far south so fast. And one of the problems that I have is this year is a prime example. Since April, I have gone to 5 different seminars, and I completed the Nipopo Silver School online. And the thing is everything, for the most part, I'm not a big seminar goer. I'm only going to go to a seminar for something that I either need practice on myself or I don't know entirely. And the stars aligned this year for me to be able to go see several people whom I've wanted to see. One was an invitation by a good friend of mine. And then, of course, I got to see my friends Nate and Gretchen's seminar, and a couple of other things. But mostly they were primarily upland bird dog stuff. Of course, I got to see the spectacular Pat Nolan, and a couple of other people with the way I train, or things that I know and I just want to be better than or better at, right? So every single seminar, guess what they worked on?
Basic.
Every single freaking seminar, guess what they worked on?
Foundation.
The basics. The basics, right? And people were having such a hard time, not necessarily learning new material, but they had so much difficulty because they never mastered the old material. And as a result, there's this huge impasse that the dogs were simply not capable of making those reaches until they had clarity on the other stuff. And the thing that really cracks me up, and I say this and I have absolutely no compunction about saying it publicly, I will never refer a student of mine to a pet dog trainer for a seminar. Never. I want them to go to working dog trainers, because working dog trainers have a tendency not necessarily to know more, but to have seen more and are able to actually consolidate the things that dog needs to know in order to achieve the next level. And one of the most, I went out of my depth here by a lot. I am not a bite sport person. I don't particularly care for the culture of bite sports. as a, give me a minute.
Julia.
Now,
No,
right?
Yes.
I can't stand the goddamn big ball swinging testosterone bullshit that
There's
floats
that.
around bite sports. I can't stand it. It makes people look really, really bad. But anyway, so Julia invited me. She was going to be in Southern Maryland, and she invited me to come down to a little town called Hollywood, where she was going to a decoy camp with her dog Fox, the lovely, magnificent, truly wonderful Fox. And I was impressed with myself simply because I knew what the guy was doing, and I knew what he was trying to extract from these dogs. And I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I just want to give a shout out to who it was, if that's cool.
Yeah,
Just that's Drew Fisher, sir, and it was basically a training weekend for and the group of dogs you saw were people who have been to him a number of times who developed their dogs. It was great. I like to see him a couple times a year. Yeah, I'm glad you got to go.
And I mean, I learned a great deal. But I surprised myself with how much I knew, not because I don't know shit about bite sports. I'll be the first one to admit that. I don't know anything about, the requirements. I mean, I do somewhat, but I don't know anything about, like the deep rules that for all the different bite sports that are out there. I know nothing about them. But it was great to be able to see exactly, increment by increment, how he was building these dogs and how it enabled them to be able to go past whatever sticking point they had and move on to something else. You're not getting that from a pet dog trainer. You're not. You're not getting that from the vast majority of seminars that people are passing off as being just the greatest and the latest. And it's like, having conducted a few seminars, I think I did okay. I got tired of doing them because I got tired of going over the same old ground. And I got tired of going the same old ground with people who were charging money for this. And that's where I kind of lost my shit a little bit. It got to the point to where it's like, if I'm going to do that, I can't serve these people that way. I can't. And for the people who think they can, you can't either. It's just not possible. Passing out a certificate, which is something I and David never did, because that doesn't grant you, that does not extol you with any more virtue than you had before you came to that seminar. And one of the things that really perturbs me is these people who are more than willing to denude these people that attend these seminars into thinking that now they're out and ready to go out into the world and do the same thing. I can't do it anymore. Right? Yeah, Josh. Is that the only reason, Josh? Thanks, bud. But
I wonder about the marketplace, and because I've had this conversation with other trainer friends who have noticed, for example, in their travels around the planet, that it might arguably be true that there is more money in teaching other people how to be yoga instructors than there is in teaching yoga to people who want to practice it. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And so I also suspect this to be true of things like canine rehab, that you can get people to come and train to be a canine rehabilitation expert. But most folks, even if their dog needs canine rehab, they pay for a session or two, but lose interest or won't sustain it or whatever.
It starts looking at more and more like an MLM scheme,
Yeah.
And you see the various, incarnations of that with a lot of the pet dog people, and
Right.
I don't know what, I'll be frank, I don't know what they teach at these things anymore.
I don't either, because I don't go.
I don't know what they're teaching. Like, what are they teaching? I've never met. There was one up here not long ago with a bunch of guys who do this like circuit, and they were charging, I think it was like $800 for the weekend or something. And well, what were they? I've never met a person who's gone to one. I've never met a single person. I know a ton of people up here. I know a ton of dog trainers up here. I know a ton of dog owners. I know a ton of people who do sports with their dogs, and none of them have ever even heard of these things. And yet, apparently, they make pretty good bank on them. And I still don't know what are they doing? Like, I don't know. Do I want to know? Probably not,
Lindy,
because I'll
Lindy,
probably
you
get
were
really
saying-
like bitterer.
Right. Linda, you were saying you don't try not to go to the pet stuff, but I did have a student in one of my classes say to me the other day, I want my dog to know more things than how to go to a cot when I push a button.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's fair.
You do, and you'll say it. Bullshit to what, Josh? I missed something. I was harassing my husband to bring me some water.
Probably the thing I said about I have no idea what they're doing at these.
That's
Probably his answer.
And it's like,
That's kind of what I expected too. Yeah.
oh yeah, they sell to their social media followers and the lost professionals that buy into their no bar standards, and that's true. And the thing that's really really sad is there's a lot of these people that actually know better and choose not to do better. I got into a conversation, and like, you know, these dog groups. I signed into one. I was there for less than an hour and signed right back out. I had, you know, I just couldn't. I'm like, this is supposedly ostensibly a group of professional dog trainers. Why are we answering such remedial questions? And then these people have the unmitigated gall to be butthurt when they hear an answer they don't like.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like,
That's a
I don't
huge
have
thing.
time for this. I actually was invited to this group. So if you're not going to listen to what I say, then I don't really need to be here, because I actually have real live dogs to train. You know, but I ended up getting in a conversation with an individual who basically, the conversation, Josh remembers it because it just happened not too long ago, was about an individual who took a dog that they should not have taken because it didn't, well, they felt they shouldn't have taken it because it didn't fit their parameters of how they do business. Okay, that's fine. I understand that. There's many dogs I won't take in the way we do board and trains. There's many dogs I won't take just because at this point in time, in my age, right? I'm not going to take human aggressive dogs in a board and train environment. Not in my board and train environment, because these dogs are housed in my home, and It's just me and my husband. We're retirement age. This isn't something, you know, I mean, come on, be realistic. If I had a student or something, maybe, but I'm just not equipped for handling dogs like that. I'm not 15 years ago. This is past that, right? But anyway, so this individual, no. What are you doing? Get out of here with that. Here, hold on. That was vodka. No, it
I was
wasn't.
just going to ask.
It was water. But basically, the question was, this individual, and I actually was fairly polite. I'm like, you know, this is a pre-screening issue because the dog was not housebroken, according to whatever their standards were, you know, for their ease of care. And I kind of thought about that for a minute. It's like, well, you have the dog. You already have the dog.
Right.
Just define it in such a way that it can't do that to itself and put it on a better schedule. But it was not convenient for this person. And they got angry because I suggested that their only objection to this dog being there was because it wasn't convenient for them. Bitch, you took the fucking money.
Right.
It's your fault that you didn't pre-screen that client sufficiently to deter that dog from coming. How is that anyone else's problem? Why is it, what should I do? That's on you.
But that's the culture. That's a whole thing. I don't know if you guys will remember. This is going back some, but years ago it might not have been the BT list. It might have been that list for the organization we all used to be in.
Right.
But there was a trainer who had taken in a dog, an aggressive dog, for, I think it was only for like a week. and there was a whole go-round about the dog attacking her while it was on her bed, and she had to feint it off with a tennis racket.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that's before I got nice, and I ripped that girl 3 new ones because I couldn't understand. You took money, you took this dog, and now you're being held hostage by a stranger's dog. That's what? Can we swear on this? Because man, why the F did you let that dog on your bed? And now you're out there like one of the Williams sisters with your tennis racket trying to keep the dog from attacking you, and you took money. And you want to know if you should give their money back when you return the dog. I remember that was the thing that drove it home for me, that I couldn't believe. You are asking the advice of your alleged colleagues and peers on this list. Should you give the money back? You shouldn't have taken it.
You shouldn't have taken it. Exactly. And that's my point. And
that's 15 years ago. And it's only, in my experience, it's only gotten worse.
Yeah.
The bar has gotten lower, to the point where you have to like slither under it.
You have to dig under it.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad. And again, it reflects the big picture, as it reflects badly on everybody.
Yeah.
If you can just, wake up one day, take an online multiple choice exam and get certified as a dog trainer and hang out a shingle and, have some nice social media,
And that's exactly it. I was perusing the internet today, and it's like, I have like close to 7,000 followers. Woo! Not large by a huge amount. Some of these people have over 100. One of them had like 500 and some odd thousand. And these are dog trainers, right? Slick, 4K film, nice asses and tight shorts, a lot of leg, big muscly chests, things like that. It's like, what are we selling here? Because it ain't dog training. Because I'm looking at the dog, I'm looking at the dog, and I'm looking at the training, and I'm going, yeah, no, that's not how it's done, right? But whatever. I'm glad that it helps you pay the bills. I hope you have trouble sleeping at night.
They don't.
The argument that I had gotten into wasn't with this woman; it was with a sideliner who basically was like, "Well, you're just jealous," and I'm like, "Jealous of what? What am I jealous of? I've been doing this for 52 years. I'm not jealous of shit."
Right.
The problem that I see is you are unwilling to do the hard work. Like Stephanie writes, no one wants to do the hard work. You don't want to be inconvenienced. Well, I don't housebreak dogs. Like, I don't either, but I will help an owner put a dog on a time schedule of elimination. There's a difference. And I've been doing this. You've been doing this. Jill's been doing this, collectively, the 3 of us, for over 100 years. By a lot.
Mm-hmm.
How many dogs do you get for board and train that are shitty, pissy messes that don't go home that way?
Right.
No. Yeah. Any of them. I mean,
any of them. And the thing is basically, it's like, because you don't want to be inconvenienced, that's fine. That's not my problem. You don't want to be inconvenienced. You lied to that owner and you took their money anyways. And somehow this is my fault because you don't want to housebreak dogs. I don't want to housebreak dogs either. But I'm not going to deny, or I'm not going to lie to that owner, right? And tell them that, send the dog back because it's dirty. I already have the dog. Why not fix it? Why not karma that shit?
I was talking to an owner earlier today, and I said, let me see if I can remember how I phrased it, that there's a paradox.
Right.
And I don't know if I'll articulate it as well as I'd like to, but that so many owners don't seem to grasp, which is the idea that if you're going to be a dog owner, you have to rearrange the household so that it's centered around dog ownership, but you cannot rearrange the household so that it is centered around the dog itself. And that's the part that they can't. You have to rearrange your life if you're going to housebreak your dog. But you don't put the fur baby on a silk pillow in the middle of the living room and bring the meals out on a silver tray.
Yep, you have to. I agree. We have a lovely dog here right now. We saw him back in February when he was just a wee lad. He is 2 livestock guardian breeds. He's under a year old still, and he's already over 100 pounds.
That sounds like fun.
We got him back for a tune-up because he's going to be bigger than his owners. So we're going to start collar conditioning him and get him used to the idea that the recall is not a suggestion. It is in fact mandatory, and they have a fairly large spread. And they have chickens, and they apparently are going to get livestock if they don't already. So he has to learn these things, right? He's already doing the typical livestock guardian breed, blah, 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 when people come up to the house. But when we went to pick the dog up, my husband and I get out of the truck, and she actually had the dog on a leash as the dog was coming out the door. She's holding him back because, I mean, he's an enormous animal now. Takes him off the leash, and he comes bounding up to us, barking and slathering, and then he realized who we were. And he starts jumping all over us, and they're in the background, and the one owner is saying, see what he does? And both my husband and I are at the same time saying, well, you could put him back on the leash. Right? So, the dog, I end up grabbing the dog. My husband puts him on a leash, and we walk back to the house. But it's like the permissiveness. And one of the videos, the Instagram videos that I posted to the group, basically shows, I don't know if anyone has seen them yet, but it's this kit for a puppy that's coming, a little X-Pen, and wee pads. Everything's in pink. Everything's in pink.
Of course it is.
And it's like, for this teeny tiny little toy teacup thing, right? Hey, Summer. And it's just like all of these little accoutrements that accompany this dog, because this is what we expect. Now, when we get dogs, we get this kit that's supposed to be doing the dog raising for us, but everything has to be so cutesy. Everything, there's this little lounge, or the chase lounge, and on top of, there's a little rack, and this person is hanging little pink outfits on this rack, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
This is why the terrorists hate us.
And it's like, but the thing is, though, you start doing that to an animal that's like, a little dog, you can hold it in your hand and zing it across the floor like a bowling ball, but you get something the size of this dog we have downstairs and try that, and what's going to happen? Someone's going to bleed. And it's like people, for whatever reason, have been deluded into thinking that this is how we handle animals now. That these are the things we do.
Linda, I'm going to go back to something you said a minute ago when you said you arrived to pick up the dog and they turned it loose and it was jumping on you, and they said, we wanted you to see, right? And I mean, I hear that too. And I think because you think we've never seen this before, all dogs will do this if they're not trained. I don't need to see. I already know what your dog will do if you leave him to his own devices.
They all think it's like, they all think that it's so, everybody thinks that their whole thing is unique, whether it's the problematic behavior, oh my God, no one has ever in the history of humans and dogs dealt with such a horrific, but it goes into the whole thing with the backstory. Every dog has this huge, special backstory that makes him. And it's like, just stop with all of that. That just gets in the way of the, immediacy of what we need to do, first of all. And secondly, get over yourself, man. It's a dog. And let's teach him what we're supposed, the famous 5 words, right? Was it Cap? Don't let him do that.
Yeah.
So many things could be solved with that. But, we have to show you. You need to see.
It's as though each person experiences their dog ownership as this sort of isolated, insular, it's me and my dog in my house, sort of assertion of something. And it's not. Dog ownership is pretty communal. It's like George said earlier, we're all tarred with the same brush. And so if there are environments in my community where I see more and more of the signs going up, no dogs allowed, no dogs allowed.
Yep.
And I think I said this on the Prairie Canine page one day, we all can talk to or speak to what has happened that makes those signs go up. But I think the real conversation in any community is what would we have to do together to make those signs come down?
Well, I don't know if y'all remember. It's been many years now. I did the PSA.
Sure.
If a dog can do that, where one of the community parks that I used to train in basically had all these no dog signs all over the place. And so I had a young man that was interning with me way back then, had a lovely German Shepherd dog named Yoshi. And at the time I was training a service dog named Jack. And we had taught them remote retrieves and remote deliveries. And I had them going out picking up trash.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And as I'm driving through the park, my husband's videotaping all the trash that's underneath the bleachers, dirty diapers, all the stuff that people just basically just discard. And then pictures, jump cuts of the dogs picking up the trash and delivering it to trash cans and so on and so forth. And basically the whole tagline was, if a dog can do this, why can't you? And it's Town in Maryland. And as a result of that, they took the signs down and permitted dogs. Immediately after that, we had to stop training there because it became so dangerous. It was off leash dogs everywhere.
There it is. Yep.
And this was like 2013, maybe, or it was a little bit sooner than 2011, 12, something like that, but whatever. And we go back now, but we only go back during the school year, during the weekdays when we know all the little kitties are at school and they're not a nuisance, because it's so unsafe for us to be there.
Yeah.
And it's like, I worked hard. It used to be that wherever I went, when I left, I would create a vacuum in my wake and suck all these morons in behind me. Mm-hmm. And basically, all the places, especially in southern York County in Pennsylvania, northern Baltimore County, northern Harford County, even here in Carroll County, and we've been here for 18 years. I've been in this area for 36 years now. And it's like every place that I have been able to go with dogs and never had a problem, I can no longer go to, because some Yahoo took their dog into Home Depot and let that thing paw and claw all over merchandise, and now no dogs are allowed. I didn't do that.
But that's the thing.
Did that.
Right. But that's the thing, that the dichotomy of everything is dog friendly to what you were saying, Jill. Like, you look around, there's no dogs allowed at all these places because of this. It's this whole thing where everything is also dog friendly now. When you see all of these, can you think of like 20 years ago, you didn't see all of these dog friendly brew pubs and dog friendly restaurants and all of this. And it would be great if there was a culture that went along with it,
right,
that encouraged, yes, if you have dogs who are mannerly, who, aren't interested in every person, but then that in itself is frowned upon, because if you have a dog that's minding its own business, now there's something wrong with you and your dog, right, because dogs are communal, community property. So there's not like it blows my mind, because it's the two opposites. You can't bring dogs anywhere where we used to expect to bring dogs, because people are maniacs, and in places where I don't want to see a dog.
Yeah.
I see dogs.
Right.
There's a local supermarket up here, Market Basket, and there's a group called People of Market Basket, which is pretty hilarious. One of the things they do is they point out all of the
people of Walmart.
It's basically that, except better. People of Market Basket, highly recommend. Shout out to People of Market Basket if anybody who loves it is watching. But one of the recurring themes is people bringing their dogs into Market Basket that are very obviously not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
So you see that, but then there's a very nice baseball field half a block away from my school here that I can't use anymore, because dogs can't be there, because the people who bring their dogs to Market Basket also bring their dogs and let them use that as a toilet where kids play Little League, right? So it's kind of ridiculous. And at the end of it, the responsible people end up paying the price of not being able to bring their quiet, well-behaved representatives of various dog breeds or types places, because all the idiots with their backstories and their fur missiles and he just wants to say hi, have ruined it for everybody else.
Well, and the thing is basically it doesn't take too long. I don't know if it was, I think it was Jill, like right before, it was sometime earlier today where one of you, I think it was Jill, asked whether or not that was going to be a conversation about these places, these dog friendly places. And it's like, I was with Josh, as a matter of fact, at a seminar I conducted at his place February 4 years ago. And this guy brought in this nasty Jack Russell Terrier thing that was just lunging at everybody that walked by and screaming and carrying on. And I got drunk and belligerent. Nobody likes that.
I kind of do.
Likes that. And it was just like, but the thing is, though, is one of the problems that I have as a citizen, and this goes for children, drunken spouses, pets, whatever. Yeah, no kidding, Josh. I would be proud of that, though. I wouldn't care if you showed it or not. The thing is when you have a moral and ethical obligation to the community in which you reside, on how you handle yourself, how you allow your children to handle themselves, how you allow your pets to handle themselves. That's your responsibility. That is your responsibility. I don't care what anybody says. And when someone comes up to me, Terrier Man actually just posted something on his page the other day about someone who he was going kayaking with his dogs. And there was a woman with the corgi, and the corgi was sitting there snarling and throwing hands at his dogs. And he basically was like, I'm going to punt it if it comes any closer. And essentially, I'm the same way. I have great resting bitch face. If you can't read my mind, I'll be more than happy to use my mouth to tell you what I'm thinking.
Because I think that's the seminar to teach, is how to perfect resting bitch face. Because I've got a group usually of canine good citizen trainers and then my little competition cohort. And we're at Home Depot or wherever, locally. And they'll ask me what do I say if someone wants to pet my dog and I don't want them to? And so we talk through that, but no one ever asks me if they can pet my dog. And I think I have the face going on. Not sure how I acquired it. Maybe it's just occupational hazard over time or something, but nobody ever asks me that.
I use the Julia line, and I've actually said this to people. It's like, only if I get to grope you first.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a man or a woman. I really don't. Let me touch her. If I can fondle your kids, you can touch my dog. Yeah. Get the fuck away from me.
That shuts it down.
I was just like, and even when we have these conversations with owners, it's like, well, I'm in a conversation with an owner right now when I take my dog to the dog park. This dog has been kicked out of dog parks because she's been attacked and now she's on the offensive, right? And I kept on telling her, you cannot do that. Well, I want her to have dog friends. She doesn't need dog friends. She has you. Well, what happens if people want to play with her and people want to pet her? Don't let them. Do you let people do that to your infant child? If you're walking down the street and a strange man comes up to you and says, "Can I pet you?" What are you going to do?
Right.
And it's like they don't have any comprehension of how these interactions impact their dog's behavior.
Right.
It's like if you walk down the street. If you walk down the street and people are approaching you inappropriately and you feel uncomfortable and you feel self-conscious, how do you think your dog feels?
Right.
But it's a dog. My point. You don't get to choose for the dog.
Right.
Right.
But that's the whole thing again. It's the contradiction, it's the hypocrisy where, it's my baby, it's my child, it's my whatever, he's family. Okay, fair enough. But then we don't treat him like family. We let people trespass on him like we wouldn't let them do with family. And I don't know, man. I've always said this. I've said this for years and years. You want to see someone's IQ drop 50 points, put a dog in front of them. And all of a sudden they just turn into like
Me too, Uncle George. Me too. I'll walk right up to you. Stick my face in your face. And I will be ugly. I will be ugly. And I am a big girl. And people have a tendency to take that seriously.
I love it.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's just, and it's sad. It's very, very sad. It's like there was something. Oh, God. One of the folks that follow me here, she lives, I think, in the UP in Michigan. And we were talking about, there was something on Mark Connolly's page. I think it was Mark Connolly's page about a horse getting jumped by a dog. And it's like,
I remember that. Yeah.
I would stomp that SOB flat into the dirt.
Yeah.
And we're having a conversation on my page about it. And paintball guns. They're not illegal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I mean, I'm not going to go into the whole conversation about pews and stuff like that, but it's like we carry, we have our concealed carry permit. I would never use that on a dog because I'm a good shot, just not that good of a shot. But I can carry a paintball anywhere, gun anywhere, right? And on top of that, it gives you the opportunity to be able to mark that animal if it's not with a handler. And they hurt enough at close range to where it's going to deter most dogs.
Yeah.
Right. But it's like I no longer ride. I rode recreationally. I wanted to be a rider, but money and opportunity just wasn't there for me. But I cannot fathom trying to control an animal that weighs over 1,000 pounds with some predator animal at its legs and trying to bring it down. And it's like the thought of that gives me chills. And it's like some of these horse people, I give them a lot of credit for not just jumping off the horse and murdering those dogs with their bare hands. I really do. And then the owners are like, they're trying to blame the victim. This is the thing that kills me, right? There's no place in this country that I know of where there is community rights or community access rights where your dog is allowed off leash.
Right.
There is no place that I know of. National forests, state game lands, all of these things, unless you have a permit to be there during hunting season, your dog is not allowed off leash, right? These horses cannot be expected to turn the other cheek if they're being attacked. But people seem to think that it's the horse's fault if their dog gets hurt.
I was in a park, local park, maybe 2 months ago, and I just put in track in for my dog, so I was waiting for the track to age, and we were just kind of hanging out in the back of the vehicle. My tracking buddy was there with me, and someone came by on the horse trail with a horse who, as soon as the horse saw the dog, just puffed up and was, really became a lot for this rather inexperienced rider, or it looked like, to deal with. Neither of the dogs in our company did anything more than just sort of glance at the horse, but you sure wondered what kind of experiences that horse had had in that park
in the past.
Sure. Yeah.
Yep. We have horses right across the street. So every dog that comes here, they get introductions to horses, they get introduction to cattle. I have to walk 120 feet out my back door, and they're usually right there in the corner fence. And I've had a couple. I had a young dog named Zevons many, many years ago. He's a pit bull. He was out of a game bred kennel in like somewhere in the Rocky Mountains, and lovely, lovely dog, keen dog. And boy, was he hot. And thank God I got him when he was very, very young, because we weren't able to, and you never are able to, extinguish genetics, but we at least taught him enough self-control to where he wasn't trying to kill them every time he saw them. But it's like, these people, and it's just so disturbing, and the thing is it's not even, COVID did a lot to make it worse, but it was a post-COVID thing that basically has just started spiraling over time, where people seem to think that they're entitled. And it's like, no, your entitlement ends where my personal space begins.
Right.
Yeah.
So, all right. So if we kick that horse to death, excuse the euphemism, ready to move on?
Sure.
Okay. So, the USDA APHIS. Anyone here that's not familiar with it? With the basically now the Department of Agriculture has stepped in and said that dogs are no longer allowed to be imported to this country from like 120 some different countries that have really bad track records with health provenance and things like that. And you can thank the rescues for that. So all you rescue people that are out there, watch closely. You ready? Can you see her? Right? That's on you. And the reason it's on you is because all of the importation of all these dogs brought from all these third world countries, from across the creek from Canada, across the creek from Mexico, from Taiwan, mainland China, all these backwater places. No offense, but I mean, when it comes to animal care, they're very backwater. So don't even go there with me. But basically, what's happened as a result is now with the increase in rabies and other pathogens in this country, as a result, they no longer are allowed to import dog. We are no longer allowed to import dog from other countries under the age of 6 months. Now, ain't that some shit? Thank you, rescues and shelters. You can all kiss my ample peach fuzz white ass, right? So the thing is basically, and I heard this and I was not surprised, because I don't know if you all remember way back when the USDA APHIS rule was being proposed during the Obama administration, and the rescues and shelters were exempted from the rule because of this importation thing. There was no way that you could track these dogs. And the shelters and the rescues, and having been part of the stakeholders group that was on those calls with the United States Department of Agriculture, they argued vehemently to not be part of that. As a result, here we are. Guess who's still exempt?
Yeah.
Right? And on top of that, all of the breeder bans, now I track this because I'm the legislative liaison for the National Association of Dog Obedience Instructors, right? Everything having to do with breeder bans in every single state that I have researched just over the summer, from say late April until today was my last thing. Everything is with the exception of shelters and rescues, which means that I may only have 1 or 2 bitches and only sell 1 litter a year to not be included in that breeder licensing thing, unless I was a shelter or a rescue and happened to have a litter, right? Now, look, I don't have a problem with regulating the number of dogs being produced. But again, I don't think that numbers is the issue. I think that knowledge is the issue, and the lack of knowledge. And the vast majority of people in government don't have the same level of knowledge that we do. Yes, Adrian, the rescue, no, they're not exempt from, here, let me put this up. The rescues are not exempt from the ruling regarding the United States Department of Agriculture. They're not allowed to import dogs under the age of 6 months. They actually are still really aggressively, they're aggressively restricted on where they can get dogs from. There's still certain countries that you cannot import dogs from because of the risk of rabies and other pathogens that have been brought to this country. The Chinese flu that's been going around for a couple of years now as a direct result of this. But at the beginning, the USDA APHIS rule, when it first started 100,000 years ago, the rescues and the shelters argued to be exempted from the statutes of that rule. And the statutes is every animal born in this country is going to have to carry a chip so that it can be tracked. Essentially, it was originally designed for livestock, consumables, cattle, sheep, goats, chickens, so on and so forth, things that, the part of the domestic consumption. And then all of a sudden it became domestic pets as well, from your tiny little gerbils all the way up to whatever. And essentially it was part of the Department of Agriculture's ability to control dog kennels, government licensed dog kennels, which of course are the worst, right? I know a lot of breeders, they have 1 or 2 litters a year. The dogs are whelped in their home. They're raised with the kids and the cats and the dogs and the horses and the what have you. And these dogs do fine. But the USDA, Department of Agriculture, wants your dog on netting so that they're not trampling around in feces if you're going to have X number of dogs and it's just a big fat hairy mess. But here we are. So, yeah, I mean, if we can have that conversation a little bit later. But part of the problem is again, so now when they're talking about governing breeders, okay, we can talk about reasonable legislation for that, but you don't get to exempt the number of animals a person has because they call themselves a 501c3 shelter or rescue. You see where I'm going?
Mm.
So I have problems with this. And on top of that, I actually was planning on, I had actually made plans to import a dog from Poland. The dog was not going to be born until this last, the second week of August. So, I'm thinking, yeah, this will be great. I'm going to, nice little bitch is going to be sent to me. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to have new bloodlines that this country hasn't seen in 150 million years, right? Guess what's not going to happen now? So I actually had contacted another breeder and, basically said, is it possible that when you come over, you're bringing this dog, you can, make arrangements to bring this dog as well? It can't happen. The breeder, and it's not that she is not committed to keeping the dog, but again, she's a breeder. She's not going to be keeping 10,000 dogs because they can't be imported or exported to the United States. So she's going to find a home, domestic to her, where she can see this dog grow up and do well, in its own country or somewhere on the continent. Okay. So, and then the Sportsmen's Alliance is actually pursuing a lawsuit against the United States Department of Agriculture to rescind this rule so that sportsmen can hunt in Canada with their dogs or bring a dog from Canada to hunt here in the United States that may not be 6 months old. Now, ain't that some shit?
No, it's crazy. I mean, is the AKC doing anything with this? I heard something about them like starting to rumble about this because it's devastating for people. I look at my breed. I'm not a breeder. I look at what we deal with some of the bottlenecks in Dobermans, and one of the great hopes that we have is bringing dogs in that are from outside of the familiar bloodlines here. And you hear people talk about Australia. No one's going to hold on, like you said, no one's going to hold on to a litter of puppies past the 6-month date in order to send them here. It's not going to happen. People want those puppies when they're young too. They want them so that they can work with them before they're 6 months old. They can put in good foundations. They can see what they have. And it's just depriving, and that's just one breed. That's the breed I'm familiar with. And I know it's not limited to just this breed. I have a friend who's a German Shepherd breeder. He imports sometimes litters of puppies.
Yeah.
He can't do it. It's over for him. He's
been in this the working dog industry. It's killed the working dog industry a lot. And we rely on those dogs for national security.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Right. But I have not kept track with what the AKC is doing on this. Do they have anything to say, or?
Basically they actually have a lot to say, and they're actually, they haven't partnered with the Sportsmen's Alliance. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, that's,
I do know that both, and the AKC actually has some fairly influential lobbyists, state by state, and overall. And I think it's important, I don't really want to cast aspersions against the American Kennel Club for a specific set of reasons, because as much as we hate them, we need them. Or not necessarily hate them, but have no use for them. We need them as dog owners. We need them. I don't give a shit what breed of dog you have. I don't give a shit if you have mutts. I don't care what kind of dog you have. You actually need them because we need their influence. And the thing is the one thing about the AKC that I really, really struggle with, and they know it, not that that's really had any influence on their behavior, but they're very one-sided on the things they are willing to put energy into. And the importation issue is kind of a sticky wicket for them because their domestic product is the production of dogs in this country.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not willing to say reluctance, but I think that there is a little bit of an impasse that we haven't quite been able to overcome with the AKC in order to encourage them to want to do this harder, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So, and the problem is, and this is something that this is actually going to be our third topic, and we're running over, but screw it. I don't care. If you guys are in, I'm in too. The AKC-CDC, I'm going to put this up, Paige. Hold on. Have been in convos with the CDC about this, and they convinced CDC to back down on some of the requirements.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, but not all, right? They reverted at the end of July, like 2 weeks before the August 1 rule into effect. But one of the things that was never off the table, was the importation of dogs under the age of 6 months, regardless of whatever country it came from.
Right.
And that's the thing that the Sportsman's Alliance, and that's the thing that the AKC should be talking about. They should be pursuing. And that's just, it's going very slow. So the Sportsman's Alliance actually, and I threw my support in with the Sportsman's Alliance right off the bat. As soon as they came out and said that they were actually pushing for a lawsuit against the United States Department of Agriculture, because this is ludicrous. This is absolutely ludicrous. It absolutely cripples the working dog community in this country, of which the military and domestic police forces require. And I don't really care where you fall on the use of dogs in those capacities. But as far as weapons, drugs, contraband at foreign ports, and weapons and things like that, and bombs and stuff, we need those dogs. The last time I looked, which was probably almost 10 years ago, the number per year globally supplied by the United States was almost 20,000 animals. We can't supply that here. We cannot create that domestically. We rely on dogs from overseas in order to be able to supply it. And this is not, this is dogs coming out of retirement, or these are dogs being retrained and reposted elsewhere and stuff like that. But the requirement for that many animals is just an enormous responsibility. And that's not, it's not just dogs for detection work and dogs for this. It's the whole number. It's the, domestic police, military bases overseas, so on and so forth. Presidential, whatever, all of these things. That's a huge number. Where are those dogs coming from? Shelters?
Well, I was going to go there. Because that's what's coming. Because the overarching belief that we're being sold is that all dogs are the same, right? And you can train anything to do anything, and adopt, don't shop, don't you know? And I feel like this is, it's that writ large,
Yeah. Right. Yep.
That was my confusion too. I knew the AKC was getting somewhat involved. I wasn't sure.
Somewhat. They need to be more aggressive.
They had dug in, but they haven't. Yeah, and you're right.
It's slow. Yeah. It's moving.
And it's a problem. It is a huge problem, because it's not the AKC's, it's not their Waterloo. And the thing is, the registration of purebred dogs and breeders being able to produce those dogs and churn up revenue for the AKC, and even trainer stuff. I mean, there's a lot of stuff as a trainer, things that really, really impact trainers. There's been several pieces of legislation that were promoted in 2023 that were successfully fought by the AKC, but because it's just like legislation that's proposed anywhere, where basically all this pork is added to it. Mm-hmm. Well, I'll pass that if you pass this. So these things get slithered in, and so essentially, the AKC is of a mind to where, well, since this addresses the ability to have XYZ number of dogs, then we'll help you address it. And it's like, no, this directly impacts your ability to generate an income from any AKC event, field trials, hunt tests, earth games, all of these things, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to have more than just a cursory interest in this, because it affects us all as a community, right? And this is one of the things that Margot and I used to talk about for years, was the fact that there's nobody invested in actually going to their state house anymore and introducing themselves. And now that we have the internet to do that, we can just keep pounding them with emails and say, this is probably really, if this should happen to come up, I'm your Huckleberry, contact me and we can have a conversation about it. But that's not being done. It's not being done in any meaningful way. I can't tell you how many times I've been, firing emails off to people just so that they pause long enough and say, yeah, before I do that, let me get some more research. There was a guy in Illinois just a year ago, this time last year, who basically was all gung-ho about this piece of legislation And basically it was because of something that happened to someone that he heard about it happening to. It didn't even affect him directly. It was just someone saying, there ought to be a law. And sure as shit, here we are. There's a law now.
Now there's a law, right?
Yep. So, yeah, and that's why we're screwed. I was recently told 85% of detection dogs are direct imports. You would be correct. Nope, they do not. Importing a lot of pregnant bitches to circumvent the 6-month rule. I don't know. I would have to check on that. Not spending $15,000 on a pregnant bitch.
I had asked my friend who imports a lot of dogs. I said, is that a workaround? And he was just explaining how risky that is, how expensive it is, and how a lot of the breeders who he buys his dogs from don't want to part with the bitches that are having these litters. That it would be ridiculously expensive to begin with, and there might just not be a willingness to sell them either.
Exactly. And Melissa, that's most imported military and police dogs are over 6 months. 6 and 1.5 dozen the other. There's a lot of puppies that come over and they're developed here in this country that are younger than 6 months. People buy prospects all the time, and that doesn't even address other concerns, right? There's the hunting dog community. There's, a bunch of, I think Karen Fournette made a point about all these really, really rare breeds that have representation in this country. But if you want to do anything with that breed to see it survive, you're going to have to import from another country. Right. And now you can't do that. Importing an adult is way more expensive than importing a puppy, right? And basically it's like, if I fly over, and I have a friend who did this, I can't even remember, the Tornyak was a breed of dog. She flew over to Czechoslovakia, landed at the airport, got her puppy, turned around and came home, right? So it's like counter to counter with a human escort. I don't see any reason why these things can't still be done, but now all of a sudden they can't because we're not allowed to have anything nice. But the rescues in the shelters, the reason that this is happening to begin with from the importation of dogs who are sick and they knew it, right? They get off scot-free. Anything that has to do, they're still not allowed to import dogs, which yay for that. We've slowed that freaking bleeding artery. But the thing is, though, is here we are. Based on that permissiveness, we're the ones that are suffering.
Yeah.
What is always so challenging for me, once in a while someone will ask me, what do you think about this local rescue or that local rescue? And my response is always, what's their business model? How do you know the good guys from the bad guys? What's their business model?
You don't.
And people don't want to think about it as a business because of emotion and adoption, not shopping. And when it's all shopping and we can, that's a hard nut to crack. That's a powerful story that they tell. That's a
anyone here on Threads?
No.
The new Meta property Threads that came out a couple of years ago. Yeah, you want to talk about a cesspool of just mindless drivel.
That's why I'm not on there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, it's all becoming that way. And it's like, the thing is, though, is it used to not be pervasive too. There was still little caches of places where people could go and actually have, reasonable conversations with other reasonable dog people and not just be poisoned by this toxicity regarding shelters and rescues and, shop or adopt, don't shop. If you buy a shelter, dog dies and all this other BS.
Oh, I hate that.
And the thing is,
stupid.
Melissa, here's the thing. I get your argument with that, but I've imported puppies and had great success because I knew the dogs they were coming out of. And the thing is, it was just like anything else. You take your shots. I would prefer to take my shot with a dog I can start myself. As a professional trainer, I want me to imprint that dog. I don't want to have a dog who's been started by someone else. Since I no longer breed dogs, this is a choice, which is the cool thing about America, is I get to make that choice up until now. And now I can't. And the 2 prospects that I had planned on bringing over from other countries, I can't do that now. And I'm not waiting for a 6-month-old dog. I don't want that dog affected by someone else's handling. I want that dog affected by my handling. And that's a thing. And when it comes to the stuff that I do or the stuff that I want to do, that's important to me. May not be important to others. It's important to me. But anyways, back to what we were talking about. It's just I get so tired of dealing with it, and I have owners. And the first question, every trainer on the face of the planet has heard this. The very first thing out of the owner's mouth is this is some form of freaking excuse. My dog's a rescue. And it's like, here's the thing. You have owned that thing for 7 freaking years.
Right.
You got it when it was a 10-week-old puppy. It's not a rescue, nor has it been since it was 11 weeks old.
Right.
You were able to impact that animal's behavior, and you opted not to do it because it's easier to feel sorry for it than it is to fix it.
I'll tell you one of the only good things that I've seen as a sort of fallout from how many rescues are actually, and let's face it, breeding their own puppies, or
They are.
Yeah. No one wants to believe that.
No, but
the one good thing that's come out of it is now you get people who get these puppies when they're 9 or 10 weeks old, and you can prove to them, no, your dog was never abused by a guy with a hat and a mustache.
Right.
He's just like that. It's genetic. Like Super Mario didn't sneak into the whelping box and beat the shit out of the puppies, before you got them. Like, that's the only good thing is that finally this whole the abuse thing is finally starting to be put to bed a little bit, because you get people with these puppies who are complete nerve bags because their parents and grandparents and great grandparents are alive because they learned how to avoid humans, and therefore they reproduced and created your little rescue puppy. Yeah, that dog's afraid because he's afraid. He was born afraid, man. He was born afraid. It's the only thing I've seen. But again, the hypocrisy that we keep seeing here, legitimate breeders and people who are trying to improve and diversify their bloodline to their purebred dogs can't have that. But we can still keep, bringing up litters of weird dogs from the Dominican Republic and stuff, and hoping that they fit in a condominium in Sudbury or whatever. So,
well, we have, I don't know. I things have a tendency to travel in trends, right? Mm-hmm. So, post-COVID or COVID and slightly post-COVID, it was frickin' doodles, right? And, every flavor of doodle, and burner doodles became the thing. And now all of a sudden we're starting to see a lot of adult burner doodles that have some serious behavior issues. And that, they're like 2.5, 3 years old. They're biters, they're flighty, they're nerve bags, they're separation anxiety, out the yin yang, what have you. Of which a lot of that is genetics and a lot of that is upbringing, right? So, pick your poison. But the thing is, though, is lately, I don't know about you all, but I'm seeing a lot of livestock guarding breeds in really, really bad environments.
I got one. I'm working one right now. I have a 6-year-old Great Pyrenees, and it's a lovely family. And they had a softer one before, and they got this one, and he's Great Pyrenees and all over the place in their house. And it's hard for them. Yeah, George. I know. I almost said that, George. But it's a family. They've got a little kid. They've got a baby. They've got this giant dog that is essentially doing. He's listening to the radio station. That's been programmed in his head for generations, and it's not fun. They don't want to live like that. But he's a grown ass dog too. He's 6, and I am seeing more of that. I have actually several either Great Pyre mixes or Anatolian mixes in my student body right now.
Anatolians.
Yep.
Some folks just brought in a dog I just did an eval on, and the rescue, because they're always experts in all things dog, said that the dog was like a golden retriever mix or something. And I just pulled up a picture of an Anatolian Shepherd and that's what you have.
Yeah.
That's not a golden. It's not going to act like a golden.
Yeah. The dog we have downstairs looks like an enormous golden retriever. And his genetics are already starting to turn on. And he's a youngster. He's hovering around a year old, I think. But lovely, lovely dog with people he knows, but he's already starting to get that bit of an edge to him.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he's super friendly. I mean, the owners were taking him to their place of employment, to their business fairly frequently when he was much younger, but now he's just too big. So he's been staying home more frequently. But, if you want a social livestock guarding breed, you got to stay on that forever and ever and ever. Amen. So, I mean, I don't know. I have problems with, and the other thing is these young people, Cane Corsos, Pressas.
Oh yeah, we see a ton of Corsos here. We see tons of them here.
I mean, I'm glad
there's some nice ones. I see some real nice ones, but
I'm glad that one of the best breeders is here. But I tell you what, some of the worst dogs, not hers, thank God, but man, we're seeing some rough ones.
Mm-hmm.
So,
that's the thing.
Pressas. Mm-hmm. I won't work with them over the age of 4 for 4 months.
When's the last burble you've seen?
Not that long ago, and he was actually a fairly nice dog.
You get him sometimes. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't. And again, same thing. It's like now that I'm old, fat, and ready to be pensioned. I don't handle the big dogs anymore. I will instruct, but I will not handle. Yeah. And when it comes to the battle breeds and stuff, I won't take them after about 6 months of age. I just won't.
Right.
I can't stop them. Yeah, I'm not taking the risk. I'm just not. My husband, I mean, we're geriatric together, and I'm not going to allow him to be Cane Corso. Say it wrong, right? Oh man, I'm so sick. Trainers say that, Josh. Cane Corso. I saw one today. I about fell on my ass. Oops. Dogos. I used to see a lot of dogos. I had 2 of them here at the same time at one point. Both, they were about a month or 2 apart, and they were nice. They were nice dogs. But I've seen some bad ones, and they're another breed. Nope, I'm not working with them as adults. I'm not. And your 4'11" petite, 98-pound woman is the one that's working the dog. No, that's just not going to happen. It's just not.
I had a Corso puppy in puppy class last winter, and cautioned the owner every step of the way. Yes, he's sweet now. He's fine now. Here's what you should expect. Here's what you should expect. Here's what you should expect. And then maybe a month ago, 3 weeks ago, she sends me a video of this young dog who's now 8 months old, loose on their acreage. This is their ring camera video where he goes into the UPS truck or the Amazon truck in pursuit of the delivery person.
Damn.
And she wants to know, what can we do about this? And I was pretty clear about how what we can do about this started 4 months ago.
God.
And you happily ignored everything I suggested. And now your options are quite much more limited. And you probably don't want the general counsel for UPS to find out how much your acreage is worth, because that sweetens the pot. But
that's ridiculous.
I know. I couldn't imagine how terrified that driver must have been to have that dog pursue him into the vehicle.
Jesus.
On camera. With her 8-year-old son chasing behind the dog, yelling, trying to get the dog.
That's safe.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
That was just almost more than I could watch.
I have, I play at writing. One day I want to be a real writer. And every once in a while, when I get really, really like, what am I going to write about? All I do is cruise through the videos that are posted on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. And I'm like, I don't need to think about anything. The material practically writes itself.
Yep.
And I like, God, it's not that hard. And I'm absolutely devastated with these families who lose loved ones, children, parents, grandparents, the vicious attacks that are occurring all over the world, not just here, but the numbers keep increasing. And it's like, this is such a simple thing to resolve. Put your dog on a leash. Keep it in a crate. Don't let it outside unless you can control it and you're there to supervise its behavior. And everything, the dog broke out. Then your containment system was simply not strong enough. This is not the victim's problem. This is you, the owner's problem. And all of this guardian language and all of this other, this softer, dogs need a voice and all this other claptrap.
Pet parents. That's the big one. I see people using that phrase that I would never expect to be using that phrase, and it always kind of blows me away. Like, what happened to owners? But that's another old thing that Cap used to write about, was the guardian thing, the guardianship language. And when they take that out, when they take that away from you, you're not his owner anymore, you're his guardian. That leaves a door open for other people to step in, essentially, the state or whatever, to step in and say, you're basically not a good enough guardian for your dog.
Well,
because
the thing
it's
is,
not property anymore.
Yeah, and I have a real issue, and this is and all this language has been couched and framed by the designer breed people and a lot of the purebred people, and I'm going to say it out loud right now. They're unscrupulous. They're absolutely unscrupulous. Have chosen to use this language as well. I know of an individual who breeds dogs who probably should not be. Well, actually, there's no probably about it. She should not be breeding dogs. Who basically, puts her bitches in guardian homes, right? And ultimately, what that means is the dog is still owned by the breeder, but the person who's caring for the dog is the custodian for all the dog's care, including any financial obligations like the feeding, the vet care, and all that stuff. And after XYZ number of litters, they may be able to get a puppy, right, or something, and then that's it. Then the breeder takes the bitch, spays it, and then it goes. They can keep that dog forever. I can't get along with that. I come from the era where you co-owned dogs, right, or you bought them outright, and that was your dog to take care of and to breed and to do whatever you wanted with. The culture is so different now than it was when I started out in the 70s. It's just mind-boggling. It's really very shameful. But one of the biggest websites for dog breeders basically was designed for people who were producing mixed bred dogs. And people sign up to it because it has great search engine optimization. And you pay to be listed there. And it's just really friendly language. You can adopt this puppy for $4,000. You can be his guardian for XYZ amount of money. And it's like, no, if anything, you're an owner. You're a guardian, but then essentially if things go wrong, you're the owner.
Right.
Something happens and that dog is responsible. As the owner, you're responsible. Excuse me, but they don't see it that way. There's no longer, and like there's the community that I live in, and this just boggles the mind. You can own a dog. Anything that happens that dog does, you're responsible for. You can't own a cat because cats are ungovernable. Did you know that? But if you feed a cat, that's your cat. And anything that cat does, you're responsible for. I'm like, you can't have it both ways. And this is actually written. This is in the Carroll County Animal Control Code. And I'm like, but you can't. Here's the thing.
Wow.
I know where these cats come from.
Right.
I know who has them, who won't spay and neuter them. Right. And I'm constantly wanting to yeet them back onto their property because they come over here and they piss and they shit. And they scratch up the flower beds. They harass the hell out of my dogs, and I want to just shoot them, but I can't. Well, I could, but I'm not going to do that because I'm not that person. But, I can't even get animal control to bring traps out to trap these animals. Well, they're on your property. They're your responsibility. I don't feed them. They're not my cats. You can't govern a cat. They go where they want. No, I know where they come from. I want you to take them back. Right? But it's
Right.
like, and the ambiguity of all these things is the one of the stuff. Yeah, we should have an open season on cats here too. This is a fairly rural community. Um, it just, but it's disturbing because it's like we only own like 3.5 acres. It's open. There's no fencing on the property, and and that's the other thing. This thing that separates me between me and other dog trainers. They're 3.5 acres and it's not fenced. Okay, what does that tell you? And we haven't had a loss, knock on wood.
Yeah.
Right, but the thing is, though, is our dogs never leave the property without being accompanied by an individual in a vehicle. They don't leave the property. My dogs go outside with a human being. They're off leash. They come when they're called. We go outside. We play. We have fun. We do whatever. We come back inside. We do other stuff. Right? Client dogs go out on a leash and collar with a human for obvious reasons. I have had, in the 18 years we've been here, I have had more dog incursions onto my property where I've actually had to contact animal control, and I'm the only one on this street for 8 miles that's got a kennel license.
Yeah.
Why is that?
That takes us back to where we started.
They're dogs.
Right.
You have dogs. You shouldn't mind. 4 o'clock in the morning with my little 8-week-old Labrador Retriever puppy because she had to go to the bathroom and I'm almost attacked by a neighbor's dog. 4 o'clock in the morning. How is that my problem?
Jesus.
Right? So, and these are the things that we talk about, but it's like, I'm a guardian. I protect and defend it. What's the word that I can't stand anymore? My husband's downstairs. He would know it. Consent.
Yeah.
The whole consent thing. That's going to be a topic for another conversation because we're getting ready to pull on to 2 hours here and we're starting to lose some of our audience. But basically, so before we hang up, I want to thank everyone that came out to spend time with us. Paintball gun, airsoft gun for what? Shooting them? Oh yeah, I have real live guns. I have no problem with pegging the shit out of somebody. I mean, here's the thing: if I'm being accosted on my own property, if I'm being threatened on my own property, yes, I will absolutely shoot a dog. The cool thing about this community is this is largely still agricultural. We still have the right to end dogs that are harassing livestock, which thankfully hasn't had to happen in quite a few years, but it's always on the table. Dogs can't give consent. You're correct. They cannot. I have paintballed a cat that would not stay off my vehicles and piss all over my house. Yeah, we just kind of salt blast them. Going to visit the farm. All right, so you guys, anybody here that wants to say anything or give us topics to talk about, because we may just be doing this again. So there's always that possibility. I'm threatening you with it now.
I know. I mean, Linda, earlier you said don't get me started, but go ahead and get us started.
Yeah, I know.
Oh God, I'm getting.
Keep us going.
Well, just come up with ideas, people. I mean, I can rage all day. And I don't want to, I don't want to hurt anybody's fifis, but then again, I don't really give a shit. So, here's the thing. This is the cool thing about the internet. This is my internet real estate. You can do whatever you want on yours. You're welcome to come here. You're welcome to share your opinions. You're welcome to tell me to go jump in a lake. That's fine. I don't particularly care. But basically, yeah, you don't get to tell me how to think. Or my August colleagues, Jill or Julia. I need a rotating fourth guest spot so the screen is symmetrical. Oh, for God's sake, Josh.
Wow.
So, all right, you just elected yourself then.
That's
so
right.
We're probably going to do this again. What do you think, ladies? 2 weeks?
Yeah.
That sounds
Okay.
good.
We're probably going to do this again in 2 weeks. I'll send you an invitation, Josh. It'll be a Sunday, and you'll have to be available. So don't give me your whiny ass bullshit. So here it is. There, he's volunteering. You see it?
There it is, right there. You see it.
Yeah, he just wants it to be symmetrical.
Yeah.
I can do it another way. Yeah.
Right. So, yep.
I don't know if I can do it another way. A new layout. Yes, I can do it another way. Never mind. Okay. All right, guys. I think that's pretty much it for now. Sundays are better. Everyone seems to be watch viewership drop. What, when you come on, Josh? That's okay. We'll still have you, because guess what? Hey Rod, thanks for joining us. This is actually being broadcast live on YouTube as well, and my YouTube followership is not really that great, but I'm going to be breaking it up, and it's going to be, because this is like way over what I originally anticipated it to be. But yeah, it's gonna be showing up as shorts all over the place for a while now, because there's some good conversation here. I hope we get to do it again.
Thanks, Linda.
All right, you guys
Bye.
take care. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Soon.
All right, you guys hang out
Bye.
for a minute.